This time on Motor Week, we celebrate 15 years of road tests, remember things we'd just as soon forget, and review the world as we drove it. So drive home with us next.
Motor Week, television's automotive magazine. Your host for Motor Week, John Davis.
Boy, it's been a fast 15 years. Every time I walk down these halls, I'm amazed at how much Motor Week has changed. Those first shows, we really drove by the seat of our pants. After all, no one had ever put Car Test on TV before, week after week, year-round. We started out in a Maryland studio and graduated to locations all over the world. In the beginning, the same stopwatch we used to time the show, we also used to time the cars. Now it's all microchips and black boxes. Luckily, there were a lot of really talented TV people around that were just as crazy about cars as I was. October 1981 seems like last night. I may have had a full head of hair then, but the cars are a lot better now. But we'll make it. Oh, good. Good morning, everybody. Glad so many of you could make it. This is the last time we're going to have a chance to talk as a group before the Motor Week 15th anniversary show goes into production. I want to get an idea where everybody stands on their segment, what you need to finish the job. Dave, why don't you start off? Where are you?
I've got the oddball road tests we've done over the years, some of the weird cars we've done. Hit the play there, Rich.
Oh, good. We got
the Mazda AZ1, the Tri-Spy, the Hummer, the weird cars we've done, just a kind of a recap.
You know, looking back at the parade of cars we've tested over the last 15 years, we can't help but recall some of the most interesting models that have found their way into our parking lot. Now, I'm not talking about the run-of-the-mill exotics like Ferrari, Lamborghini, and Porsche, although we've seen our share. No, the cars we remember most are those seemingly forgettable one-of-a-kinds and whatever happened to's, you know, the unloved orphans and the oddballs of the automotive world. When we went on the air in 1982, makes like Renault, AMC, Fiat, and Lancia were still a regular sight in U.S. showrooms. Sadly, they're all gone now, along with the likes of DeLorean, Bricklin, Bitter, and Maserati. We've always made room in our schedule for the small specialty importers like UAZ, who are trying their best to break into the U.S. market. Perhaps only 1 in 10 will make a go of it, but we applaud their efforts anyway. Think back. When was the last time you saw a Spy Tri tooling down the turnpike, or had your rearview mirror filled by a Toraro? We tested both of those in 1990, and we haven't seen one since. The French have been known to make an odd car or two, most notably the legendary Deux Chevaux from Citroën. We tested one in '86, and we loved it. Egged on, no doubt, by the success of Cuisinart's La Machine, Renault brought Le Car to the U.S. Unfortunately, it was La Flop in the sales department and left our shores in the early '80s. The Motor Week cameras have seen cars that float, cars that sprout wings and fly, and cars that look good enough to eat. Indeed, we found our luggage in some pretty strange cars, and found our cars in some pretty strange luggage. We've come across monster motorcycles, thundering three-wheelers, and more goofy customs than you can shake a stick at. Not to mention cars we had to carry, and even one we had to build ourselves. From taxi cabs to police cruisers to horse-drawn buggies and Model T Fords, if it had wheels, it was bound to turn up on Motor Week sooner or later. We can remember when one of the fastest cars in the country was a Buick sedan, and when our favorite convertible was a pickup. Undoubtedly, our biggest test was that of this 1993 Mack truck. We still cringe thinking of our poor test driver decked out in a helmet and Nomex as he ground the gears over and over again. For pure thrills, it's hard to top the experience of driving a manufacturer's concept vehicle or show car. We've had the good fortune over the years of wheeling around quite a few of these one-offs, and we can never get enough. We haven't limited our test vehicles to the civilian ranks either. Witness our test of Chevy's military concept, the Bushwhacker, the ultimate rolling soldier, the Hummer, and the Bradley fighting vehicle. Heck, we've even driven the USS North Carolina. Ever try to run a camera with a missile guidance system tracking your every twitch? We've done that and more in the last 15 years worth of Motor Week road tests. But no matter what the car or where the road is led, we've enjoyed every mile. As the cars we love have become more modern, so too has our method of testing. Our first test track was an unused runway at an active airport, but we soon moved to an unfinished expressway near our studio. In the early days, acceleration times were verified with a stopwatch and braking distances measured by hand. We now rely on portable computers to do the figuring for us, and the Motor Week crew can be seen at test tracks all over the world. No matter what the venue, though, neither sleet, nor snow, nor driving rain can keep us from our duties.
By now, it's pretty obvious that big, fuel-hungry American family car.
Welcome to Motor Week. I'm glad you're with us. This is a television series for people who love cars.
Well, I'm saying I think it was harder in the old days because of the facility. Pat, you remember the old place over on Kenilworth Avenue?
Oh, I sure do. You know, remember all the traffic noise and the heat without air conditioning and everything? But you know, we have a different set of problems today, and that's finding a topic that we can make understandable because of the complexity of the cars. But remember, it still all starts with the mail.
We receive thousands of letters a year from viewers asking questions about their cars, offering tips or suggesting ideas for stories. Now, we read each and every letter. What we look for is patterns, where we'll have a lot of questions about a particular topic, or we try to find maintenance or repair questions that may apply to a number of popular cars, not just a particular model.
Hi, Goss. I'm 9 years old. My question about cars is, which car has the most parts?
Now, I have to admit that a lot of this pre-production work is done by my producer, Dave, and his assistant. You see, between running my own repair facility and preparing for the weekly radio shows, I stay pretty busy. Dave makes up a list of perhaps 50 possible topics, and then in the spring, we'll meet and go over them and try to figure out if they can be covered in 3 minutes, and if there are enough props or demonstrations we can use to make the segment visually interesting. Typically, we'll wind up with around 30 ideas. And we'll split up the work and start researching the answers, writing outlines, and so forth. Dave will contact probably 100 companies asking for information or product samples to be used as props. Dave and I get together throughout the summer to go over ideas and compare notes, but the fun part comes when we start to look at all of the new products. You wouldn't believe the kind of stuff people send to us, hoping we'll put it on the show. Some of it is pure junk, but many times we'll come across something really slick. We spend a good deal of time going over these products. We'll install them on vehicles and try to use them in real-world situations. Now, of course, things don't always go as smoothly as we'd like. Throughout June and July, all of our props arrive. Segment scripts are finalized, and everything starts to come together. Then things start to get a little hectic. Many viewers think that we tape Goss's garage in my repair shop, but the set we use is actually just a parking garage for the MPT satellite truck. It takes about a week for Dave and his crew to clear out the garage and transform it into a working set. First to arrive are the toolboxes from Snap-on, and they've got to be assembled and stocked. Studio lighting is set up and aimed to minimize the shadows and cast an even brightness. Camera cables are routed from the control room over the roof on the building and under the garage door. The old cameras are dusted off from last year and set up and given a thorough checkup. The shelves are stacked with books and products, signs are hung, and it starts to look like a real repair shop. Dave practically lives in the garage for a week, but he does get to have dinner with his family. After some last-minute scavenging for parts and final tweaks to the arrangement, the set starts to come to life. By the first day of taping, the set is bustling with activity. Everything better be ready by this point because we are off and running, taping 3 and sometimes 4 segments in a day. When you consider that a complete set change takes place between each one, that's a lot to accomplish in one day. And we do that for 9 days straight. Somehow we get through it every year and the segments just keep getting better and better.
Fine cars of today. But BMW has a solution to our problem. It's a neat little model called the BMW Z1.
From the home offices in Owings Mills, Maryland, here's the top 5 reasons not to be a Motor Week test driver. Here we go. Number 5, test drivers responsible for personally washing all the test cars. Number 4, test drivers must moonlight as phone operators at the Swami John Davis Psychic Friends Hotline. Number 3, no credit given for frequent flyer miles. Number 2, must be able to do the electric slide in a Pontiac Fiero. And the number 1 reason not to be a Motor Week test driver, helmet hair. There you go.
Hey, Bones, what it
It was
is?
different in the old days, but it was still a lot of fun. It was a lot of work with the facilities and all
So
that.
how long you been with Motor Week?
15 years, since 1980.
Gosh, Craig, I was 5 years old.
Ouch.
15 years, 3 staff meetings, and 200 driving schools.
And after all those driving schools, you're still a back marker. When the road makes a corner, you still go straight ahead.
I don't pick on my driving. I've been telling you guys for years anyway. It's not the vehicles you drive on the high road. It's the people you meet. Here, let me show you what I mean. People are always saying to me, "You are the luckiest guy in the world." And it's true. Because of my life on the high road, I've driven everything from GT40s to the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile. But ironically, the best part of my job has not been the outrageous machinery, but the fantastic group of personalities, both famous and not so famous, that I've met in my 9 years taking the high road. Now, I'm just another gearhead from a little town in Maryland, so when I got a chance to meet my boyhood hero, Carroll Shelby, I was flabbergasted. Mr. Shelby always insists that I call him Carroll, and you know, I still can't get myself to do it.
I'm retired now. And
Someone I am comfortable with on a first-name basis is Jack Griffith, a man I'm honored to call a friend. Jack built a very successful sports car, but remained philosophical about the fact that the car failed to make a lot of money.
They say, you know, if you don't try something, you'll never know. And I tried to do something and had a great deal of fun doing it. It's something that I wouldn't have missed for $1 million.
I've interviewed such famous racers as Sterling Moss, Bobby Rahal, and the late Rene Dreyfuss. But it's the offbeat folks I remember most, such as the world's oldest teenager, Sidney Dixon. As a youth, Sidney raced in an England to Australia trans-world rally, and a quarter-century later, he hasn't slowed down one bit.
Don't be scared.
And while not a racer, Wisconsin's Garland Peterson certainly knows a thing or two about funny cars.
I'd always wanted a really great parade car, and I just kept thinking on doing circles. Everybody loves it. They look at that car when we're driving it and just look like, how can they do that?
Of course, not everyone I know is into cutting up old cars. Some folks actually preserve a few. Peter Jones is typical of my kind of preservationist. His real fine 409 is restored to perfection, but that doesn't mean it's a trailer queen. It's got over 70,000 miles of real street driving on its 4-speed, dual-quad, positraction 409. And talk about drivers. What would you call a guy who casually flips you the keys to test his original GT40, then does the same with an original Cobra and Mark Donahue's personal R model Shelby? Would you call him crazy? Well, I call him Fran Kress, as dedicated a car nut as you'll ever find. Now, keep in mind, this guy is not a millionaire, just very rich with the spirit of generosity. And generous describes most people from out on the high road. Generous with their time, generous with their cars, and generous with their life story. For as much as I love cars, and I do love the cars, it's the people that drive them, build them, race them that are important. It's the people that bring the cars to life.
European luxury car market. But the introduction of BMW's new 7 Series has caused a downturn in sales.
Oh God, where is this going to end up? Get along, little doggy. Max, you remember that time we were in Detroit and we're over at Dearborn, all the muskets kept
My
going
goodness,
on.
sounded like the Revolutionary War all over again.
Every time we said 2 words.
It was impossible.
It was a mess to edit.
I remember getting back on it, and it was like, hello, welcome to boom. You know, boom.
Cannon, the muskets, it was just incredible.
Nightmare.
All I remember is that weather strip glue that we used to put the carpet in the Maxner. Remember that stuff?
Yeah, that was that commercial glue.
Oh, man. That was deadly.
Yeah, we both got silly on that one.
Yeah, it was terrible. You know, it was Martin's fault. He's the one that got us in the whole thing.
What can we do about it? He's not here anymore.
Excuse me. I've got the goods on all of you.
Oh, no.
Well, hello and welcome to Motor Week. It's a General Motors solar-powered car called the Sun Racer. This week he takes the high road to a possible future and a real place where the sun runs on cars. No.
But that's not what this story is all about. It is about what you should know before you replace all those worn-out tires. Here's Lisa Barrow with her FYI report of buying tires. Lisa?
Despite Rover's takeover by BMW and a possible South Carolina-built BMW Roadster. Is this take 3? Yes. I've totally forgotten the rest of it. Take 5.
10, wasn't it?
No, 5.
5.
Despite Rover's takeover by BMW and a possible South Carolina-built BMW Roadster, the odds are pretty good that both cars will be made. And that's it for this week's Most... Ever go around a corner in your car and your coffee goes flying all over the place? The answer is yes. You might like this new product that we found. It's called the Incredible Calypso Beverage Holder. And as you can see, when I tilt the back of this... I just can't do it. There's too many stuff going on. But only 2% of those incidents are due to carjackings. Oh, I gotta look to get over, and can I do that?
I don't know what you gotta do, but do it. 180! 170 miles an hour! Wow! Oh, we rolled it!
With instructions, usually takes less than half an hour to insert new threads in the spark plug hole. And if you have a question or a comment, please write to me. I feel so alone. Oil changer. Interesting piece of equipment. This is a good example. This is a 1980 wide drive.
The Chrysler Corporation has long been known as a leader in innovative and imaginative engineering, but probably their most radical. The Chrysler Corporation has long been known as a leader of innovative and imaginative engineering. But I can't get... The Chrysler Corporation has long been known as a leader of innovative and imaginative engineering, but probably their most radical design work was done with their 3... I know people think I spend my time on the high road just hot-dogging it around in cars. Well, frankly, that's a lot of baloney.
I'm John Davis. We'll see you then. I think my most memorable cars after 15 years of Motor Week were not the fastest or the most expensive or even the sexiest. They were the first ones we did back in the summer of '81, getting ready for our premiere. First car we ever tested was a four-door Ford Escort, and we also had a Chevrolet Citation, an X-car, on that same show. We tested them at an old airport where if we went too far one way, we hit into a river, too far another way, we were on an active runway, and too far a third way, we ran into a tank of jet fuel. We knew what we wanted to do in those early days. We weren't quite sure on how to do it, but we learned a lot, and the principles of testing that we learned then, we still use today, 15 years later.
Despite all the hot cars we've driven over the years, the rides that stick in my mind have been in soft convertibles for some reason. I drove them through the south of Ireland with my wife. I drove them through the Arctic Circle with the wind in my hair, midnight sun, which is something that sticks in my head.
Believe it or not, one of the test vehicles I got the most attention in was a Chevy Lumina APV. They were pretty futuristic looking when they first came out. I was driving down the highway one day and I noticed this van was pacing me, and I looked over and it was a van full of prison inmates. And one of them rolled the window down and yelled, "Hit the brakes!" And I thought, hit the brakes? Well, the Chevy Lumina was one of the first vehicles to mount the brake lights up top. And so I went down the highway hitting the brakes and they loved it.
The most memorable car I've ever had the opportunity to drive and ride for Motor Week has got to be the ZR1 Corvette in Savannah, Georgia, taking some hot laps on the track and also turning in some incredible quarter-mile times. It was magnificent.
The Hummer stands out probably as my most memorable vehicle. I have to say because Pat, our videographer, and myself were headed up to Tennessee, the Great Smoky Mountains, to hitch up with the Jeep Jamboree Club, and we really put that Hummer through its paces that day. I believe by the end of the day we were worn out, but that Hummer was still ready to go strong. It stands out real nice for me.
My most memorable vehicle wasn't even a car. Actually, it was a boat. We were out in the Chesapeake Bay shooting one of the segments on a Scarab Thunder that was an incredibly fast boat. I mean, close to 80 miles an hour, which is absolutely flying out there on the water. Of course, it was fun for me. I can't say how much fun it was for the videographer, but the whole shoot was tremendous.
I would have to say my most memorable vehicle would be the Nissan 300ZX. There was one time I was picking up my younger brother from high school, and I'll tell you what, I never saw so many 16-year-old kids get so excited about a car. They wanted a ride, they wanted to know what it was, they wanted to know how much it was. So I think that incident really made that car stick in my mind.
I guess I'll always remember a 1986 Mazda RX-7, and that's because that's the car I got engaged in. They have these storage compartments in the back, and that's where he'd stash the red rose and a ring and a bottle of champagne. And he was driving, and it's a good thing because if I would have been driving, we were on a country road, we would have been off in the cornfield.
I remember the Chrysler LHS most because that was one of our long terms. It was my favorite car. I love that car. Every time I bring it home for the night or the weekend, everybody would think I really hit it big because I was driving such a classy car. And it got me through a heck of a surprise snowstorm once when I thought I was really going to be stuck someplace I didn't want to be stuck. It got me through.
My favorite car, mi Ferrari adorata. Of course, the Ferrari, the F40 in Italy. Fabulous. The food was fabulous. The car was fabulous. The people were fabulous. The factory was terrific. Just a totally memorable experience. And the car, there is no other. It is the fastest, quickest, most wonderful car to drive, especially on the track at Fiorano. It's just amazing. Loved it.
What's ironic, you know, with all the cars I've tested and all the cars I've raced, you know what vehicle people most associate me with? The Oscar Mayer Wienermobile. I swear, people always come up to me and go, "Hey, you're the guy that drove the Wienermobile," which I guess is cool because, I mean, everybody laughs and everybody smiles. It makes a lot of people happy when they see it. I'm glad I mustered the courage to drive it. I'll always relish that memory.
That's great. You know, everything looks terrific. If we do everything we've been talking about, we're going to have the fastest half hour on television. And I think maybe that's the way it should be for an anniversary show. I still look back and think the biggest compliment we ever get paid by our viewers is when they write in and say, "Why don't you expand Motor Week to an hour?" Oh, no. No. But well, it says a lot. You know, it says in the 15 years we've been on, we've done something no one else has ever done before. Brought a lot of good information about the latest and new cars into the home. Before us, you either had to buy a magazine or go to the dealer and get a brochure. So it's something I'm sure, I know you're all very proud of it. I am too. 700 shows,
2,000 plus cars, over 150 a year. Segments from Craig, Lisa, and Pat. That's a lot of videotape underneath the bridge. But something tells me that the best is yet to come. We got this 15th anniversary show to wrap up. Let's get back to work, everybody, and I'll see you next time.
To order a video cassette of this program, call 1-800-422-0064 or send $29.95 plus $4.95 shipping and handling to Motor Week, Post Office Box 55742, Indianapolis, Indiana 46205.